But certainly, if you've got a lower IQ, you just want stuff now. You don't want the conditions for future wealth.
No.
Like if some guy's got something that you just want the government to take it and give it to you now, not later. Like when I say to people that I say, well, only the rich can afford these things, and therefore that's bad. It's like, no, only the rich could afford cell phones to begin with, and the rich were willing to pay $10,000 for a cell phone you couldn't stand under a tree and use. It just sort of pointed at the satellite. It was crazy, right? These shoebox things. Mm-hmm. But because the rich were willing to pay $10,000 for that, you now can get a cell phone for $30.
Yep.
Right. And people are just like, but that took a long time. It's like, yeah. And if you're smart, you don't want that process interrupted because you want cool stuff in a decade or two. But of course, idiots, children, and drunks, they want things now.
Yeah.
They want things now. And because they have the state, they can get them because the state can just grab stuff and hand it to them. So idiots, I think, are perfectly fine with socialism. And it doesn't matter how long or how much you explain that the deferral of gratification is really important. Well, the deferral of gratification is associated with higher IQ. I mean, you're asking a toddler to get something from the top shelf. Just, it doesn't matter. And we've got a presentation called The Death of Reason about all of this. So don't waste your time on that stuff, man. Seriously, it is not your job to go around trying to get short people to become tall. Well, it's not your job to lecture my hair follicles until they produce a mohawk, right? It's not your job. There is a physical incapacity among a significant number of people to listen to reason and evidence. Now, I don't know if they had been raised with philosophy and reason and evidence, I'm sure that they would have a much greater ability. But given how much propaganda there is in society these days, and it's from every single conceivable direction, given how much propaganda there is in society, less intelligent people have no chance. Like functionally, they have no chance whatsoever. Okay. And, like Chinese guys aren't often tall enough to play elite basketball, but if they're also severely malnourished as children and grow up stunted, well, they really functionally have no chance. Even the tall ones probably wouldn't have a chance in that environment. So it takes a huge amount of intelligence to be able to overcome propaganda, which is why propaganda is so unfair to the less intelligent, because it denies them the very tools that they need most desperately to enhance their intelligence. It doesn't matter if I overeat at lunch because I could just go get more food. But if I'm on a boat in the middle of nowhere and I have to ration myself, then it really matters if I overeat at lunch because I'm going to run out. And so this is what's so brutal about government schools. People say, government schools are needed to egalitarianize education for the poor and so on. It's like, nope, because poor are generally lower IQ, not always, but poor are generally lower IQ. And propaganda destroys your capacity to use your mental capacities well if you're not that smart. Okay. The smart people will often find a way to overcome propaganda because they're sort of relentless and restless curiosity. And of course, the smarter you are, often the less you are susceptible to immediate negative social repercussions, right? So smart people who are committed to the truth say, someone called me a racist. Okay, well, who cares, right? Because the important thing is truth in the long run. But people say, well, why are people so susceptible to being called racist these days? Because they're dumber. Because intelligence has been declining, because welfare is this giant eugenics program to idiocracy style breed idiots and not breed smart people. And idiots are very susceptible to social pressure because they don't have the deferral of gratification and the long-term goal-oriented mindset to allow them to deal with being called mean names and, whatever. You've got a bigger and longer goal. So this is political correctness is a reflection of the falling intelligence. And you can see this particularly in university campuses, the Triggly-Puff phenomenon where people are just screaming, keep your hate speech off my campus. It's not hate speech because it bothers you. It's only hate speech because it bothers idiots. And they just call it hate speech because they're emotionally triggered and they have no intellectual way to manage their own emotions and accept that being upset is foundational to the progress of society. If hate speech had its way, there never would have been an end to slavery because the people all intellectually and financially and emotionally invested in slavery would have called abolitionism hate speech, shut it down, and we'd still have slaves. So, this lowering of intelligence as a whole, you can see this with the speeches of presidents, the analysis that they're continually declining in complexity. And this is partly the result of immigration of low IQ groups, but it's also the fact that schooling has gotten worse, and the fact that the standards for university have lowered enormously